Welcome to World BI's podcast. I'm Amraj Dillon, your host for today's podcast. Today we will delve into the crucial aspect of medical advancement clinical trials. Today's podcast, we are featuring Thierry Schulmann. If you'd like to just introduce yourself briefly.
Good morning. So I'm Thierry Schulmann. I'm a Senior Medical Director in Medical Affairs at Sumitomo Pharma, Switzerland. And I'm very happy just to be in a discussion with you about this very important topic, which is the clinical trials.
Yeah, so what we're going to be discussing today is what impact does clinical trials have on the healthcare landscape globally. So let's start by unraveling the basics. Clinical trials are the backbone of medical research, providing the evidence base for new treatments. But how exactly do they work? Hopefully you could give us a bit more insight into that, perhaps explaining the phases of clinical trials, phase 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely. So let's say the very classical way for developing a product goes through 3 phases. So the phase 1 is what we call the phase of the safety and dosages. So the objectives is to determine the metabolism, the expression, safety, and also establishing the dose ranging and potential side effects of the treatment. This is done on a small group of healthy volunteers or individuals with some target condition. So that's the phase 1. Then we move to the phase 2, which I will say is more the assessing the efficacy and the side effects. So we evaluate the treatment's efficacy and the safety in the larger group of the participants that they do have this medical condition we want to study. And then we also use this phase 2 to determine the optimal dosage and the potential short-term side effects. And in that case, so the patient group is larger, but also with the targeted condition. And then we move to the phase 3, is maybe one of the most important and most known phase of the clinical trials. The objective is to confirm the treatment's efficacy, to monitor side effects, and compare the treatment we want to test to standard of care or any existing treatment therapy, but in a much larger and diverse population. And during this phase 3, we collect more information on safety, on the efficacy, we assess the overall benefit-risk ratio, and provide some evidence for regulatory approval, because this is the phase that we'll have also to submit the dossier to the regulatory authorities. So we use usually more the patient, hundreds of patients, sometimes thousands of patients, depending of course on the pathology. One thing maybe I can add is we call that phase 4 trials, which come after the one we just discussed, which is a post-marketing surveillance, help to gather more information about the safety in the long term into much wider population. But that comes after the product is being approved in the markets. To you.
Yeah, thank you for that great explanation and going above and beyond explaining the phase 4 of clinical trials. I was wondering if you could highlight the significance of patient recruitment and the challenges that are associated with that.
So I think these 2 things we should really discuss is first the significance of the patient recruitment. I mean, the result needs to be representative of the larger diverse population. And what do we mean by diverse population? It should involve different ethnicities, different race, geographical location, and just to ensure that the result you're going to have this study will be applicable to a broader population. I give you an example. Some studies performed in the Western region may not be applicable to Asian population, vice versa. And in some markets, like in China, like Japan, or Asian countries, they do request studies in the very specific population to be approved on a regular point of view. The product also needs to be tested in a very ethical way. Patients with severe disease, can't be treated with placebo, or they can't be too long, or it can't be too expensive. So this is what is so important in terms of significance. And we may face some challenges. The main challenges is that some physicians might not be aware of the available treatment and ongoing trials, and we should absolutely avoid duplicating the studies. In some studies, it could be difficult to find the patient because they have some very strict inclusion or exclusion criteria. In some regions, the access to the patient is not easy because geographically they can't move. I mean, in terms of ethnicity representation, it might not be easy to find the full range of patient. And I have to say, I experienced this in the past, that some patients might be reluctant to enroll the study because they find this quite difficult. And, we talk so much about the side effects potentially that, they don't want to give the consent. However, in some other regions where it's more difficult to get access to some medication, it gives a chance to some patient to access to some like medication which is not available in the markets. And maybe another challenge is about these logistical issues. Patient needs to come to the centers, receive the product for monitoring. That could be like an obstacle also. And I would say lastly, there are some physicians, they would love to participate to some studies, but sometimes they said they don't have the time, or is not so interested, or the complexity of the protocol may not be easy just to follow. So this is why all the kind of challenge you may face during the studies at every single phase.
Thank you for explaining the challenges so well. Would you be able to mention the regulatory framework that helps us to oversee clinical trials globally?
So this is very important. You don't develop a product just for the scientific purpose. Requirements, you may come to the product as being completely developed, but not addressing the need of these regulatory authorities. So there's something you should be thinking ahead of the phase 3, which is the key study for regulatory submission.
Thank you for giving us such a good understanding of an overall view of clinical trials. The next subject that I wanted to cover was the data challenges in medical practices. So this is where business intelligence plays a pivotal role. In the era of data-driven decisions, how is the vast amount of data generated in clinical trials managed?
It's huge now. It's getting more and more. And that's the problem now with all the clinical studies. Then the volume of the data collected is increasing. And why? Because the pharma company, they want to collect more and more information on the studies they're performing. They invest a lot of money, so they would get more of this. I mean, the amount of data, you can see this like the patient demographic, the baseline characteristic you may conduct, the numbers of endpoints, like primary, secondary endpoints. And sometimes we want to collect too much information, so we have to be also mindful of what we can get. The clinical measurement of the laboratory values, the imaging, and with new imaging now, it's even more complex because you have to centralize this, samples just to be able just to review this on a very objective and unique way. All the adverse events, all the safety data, which is very important, and again, something which is all this administrative, work, all this regulatory document, all the things you have to submit to the patient. So all these things, I would say on top of this, all this statistical, analytical data, and I will add at the end, the personal contact or monitor the patient. So all these things mean you have an enormous volume of data generated during a single trial. How are you going to collect this? How are you going to work with this? And this is probably where, the BI, business intelligence, can play a pivotal role. That's what I think.
Thank you for that. And just to give the audience who might be not so familiar with clinical trials a better understanding, would you be able to discuss the sheer volume of data generated in just a single trial?
I think this is exactly what I was saying. Maybe I was just anticipate your question. All this, the topic to provide to you was precisely the sheer volume of the data generated during single trials. So maybe I just already addressed this question, if you don't mind.
Okay. Would you be able to explain the importance of data quality and integrity in maintaining the credibility of trial results?
So data quality integrity is critical. there are some guidance. We call this good clinical practice, and they are critical for every regulatory agencies prior to submit a dossier for approval. And this is what I said. I mean, this regulatory, authorities are looking for a well-conducted in the way of good clinical practice, in order to be able to review and approve the dossier. So it's critical to work closely with these agencies to design the study that will ensure the right outcomes, the one who are relevant, the one who are applicable to the population. And this is where all the pharma companies now are working closely ahead of designing the program, the clinical program, with the authorities, ensuring you're not missing the point that they would like to see. And also, since you need to, it takes 10 years to bring a product from the phase 1 to the market, quickly the markets, you really have to ensure that what agency will need, in 4, 5, 6 or 10 years, it's something they will be aligned with what you're going to develop. On top of this, all the legal, all the ethical compliance, ensuring that you have the importance of the positive benefit risk ratio, ensuring that there is scientific objectives, and also that you are addressing unmet medical need. If 10 products have been in the markets already and they proved they were efficient, what would be the purpose of developing another compound in the molecule if the market is fully satisfied? Another way, like in more rare disease, it's where there's still some important medical need, and when we know that there's not much medication available, now that could be something important to think about. And the companies now are looking really to go in the field where there's not much being developed in order to bring something new and again address unmet needs. And I have to say that the regulatory agencies are very, very sensitive to this kind of.
Thank you for that. Would you be able to tell us how business intelligence tools are used to streamline data management processes to ensure accuracy and efficiency?
I think it plays a role in many aspects. The first being the way you integrate the data. I mentioned before the full amount of data we may collected during the study, and it comes from various sources. And the way that you can automate this kind of collection, like through health recorded biology clinical database, help a lot. It also can help choose to monitor potentially missing data or identify some missing data. Can really see some issue with the studies, with the protocol, can detect some adverse event, and can really minimize errors. And what is important is it can replace, let's say, the human parts. The manual reporting may take a lot of time, resources. In that case, it can really help in also reducing the cost relating to this manual reporting. I think there's another part also is about the patient recruitment and the patient screening. By looking to different databases, looking for the right patient for the study, you can help really to minimize and save the time by looking in and different database or so that could help also automatic. It can also help choose data quality check. The quality check is very important also to ensure it is good clinical practice, and so you can also identify potential errors. But I think one of the most important and interesting thing is the fact you can centralize the data in one single point, especially in the study which is decentralized in different locations, and in that way they can really help in the way we can monitor and centralize all the data you've been monitored in this centralized. And I think you mentioned this, and maybe not patient recruitment, patient retention, but maybe we can address this in another point, more patient-centric.
Yep. Thank you for explaining that so well. The next thing that I wanted your perspective on was real-time analytics and decision-making. So, your opinion on the traditional model of clinical trials monitoring often involves periodic assessments. How is business intelligence transforming this landscape?
I think I stopped addressing this point in my previous question, and I think the main advantage is really the possibility to continuously monitor the study, detecting the issues, potential side effects, and the automated checking and reporting is something which is also very useful, as well as the optimization on the resources, on the allocation of the resources. And again, from a medical affairs standpoint, which I'm working closely with my colleagues, the clinical team, it's really ensuring that we identify the right outcome, and also that the accuracy of the result according to the outcome we identify. So BI can really help in this checking the accuracy of results, and also can help also in envisioning what kind of publication we can get from this. Because again, the purpose of making this study and the trial is really to get something published after that could be used. It could be used in the communication. And here I think it can really help.
Yep, no worries. Just as more of an open-ended question, how do you see the future in clinical trials? What trends can we expect in this intersection of clinical trials and business intelligence, and how will this impact global healthcare?
All this to better understand how AI can help them, and how they can optimize the time, and how we can, at the end, find an outcome that will be useful for everyone. Also, what I see here is it can help in building educational materials, and again support the patient. And but as I used to discuss with my colleagues also, I found there's more interest in the decentralized trial where people are coming from different regions, and so it can help for remote monitoring, again detecting safety issues. However, if I can say is, I do see some limitation, and I don't think it will replace all in-person part. In-person monitoring allows for the direct observation of the patient. It can really help in physical examination, and I think the relationship with the patient remains absolutely critical, as well as the collection, of course, of the data. But you can't replace everything. And also maybe another idea in this, surgical procedures, in decentralized studies, you need to ensure that the procedure performed will be almost the same and it will be reproducible. So in person also something which is important is, when you need to give the treatment, whether it's injectable, when you need to conduct some specialized tests, when you need to ensure some compliance with the study. So BI can't really replace this, which is good, because otherwise they will know for human being. So I think that coming back to the question about the future, I think the very traditional way of running clinical trials is probably behind us. And we know that conducting with full program, phase 1, 2, and 3, bring a product to the market takes a lot of time and money. And I would see the future landscape like a combination of both traditional but fully supported by this BI in all aspects we just previously debated. But I don't think, again, that it may replace completely relationship with the HCP. And especially, there's kind of the placebo effect, like the white, skirt effect on the physician that can't be replaced with this BI in some study. So this is how I would see the future.
Thank you. And just as a final question as we wrap up, would you be able to offer your suggestions for any future researchers or scientists?
The question is, you should not underestimate or maybe even overestimate what it can bring to you in your daily work when you're gonna conduct trial, when you could be like working with the investigators, working the patient. I think we should really put a firewall, but a clear distinction between how you can optimize and use this tool, and keep some like humans part, because again, we don't do this we not perform study to machines, to virtual patients, but we have some, before in front of you, and nobody react the same way. So you really have to be, open and to listen to these people. So we should be able to combine those two things together, again, in order to get the best of, this clinical trial we want to conduct. And this is probably what the recommendation I will give to future researchers in this field.
Thank you for your valuable insights today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned for more